The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, regional media, coastal broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers.
This is important because it's your money.
Your money.
Money Talk with Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie.
On 98.7 The Coast.
And welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. We are broadcasting live from beautiful Wildwood, New Jersey. We have entered spring mode here in South Jersey. Very excited about that. So excited that I decided it'd be an awesome idea to walk outside with a t-shirt and yoga pants, and it's like 60 degrees. It's a little bit premature, but I was excited because it was warm. This is a little bit chilly, but it is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful here in Wildwood, New Jersey, and I'm broadcasting from 98.7 The Coast. I'm so glad that you are joining us tonight on Money Talk with Melanie. We will have a return of the inspiring co-founder of InstaTHINK, Nina Szewczak. She's going to swing by to discuss how ChatGPT is changing the game for women entrepreneurs. Cannot wait to speak with her. And then later, we'll be joined by Evie Brooks from My Panama Vacations Realty to explore what's driving Americans abroad in pursuit of a digital nomad lifestyle. So I'm glad that you are here and will not miss out on this very important show. Now, before I get into my guests, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, right? Elephant is kind of meant as a corny pun as well. We have to talk about the indictment of President Trump, the farce indictment, in my not so humble opinion, indictment of President Trump. Now, I will say this. Some of the things that people don't care for about 45, I totally get, and quite honestly, I'm with you. I don't love that he's talking about the Attorney General's family. I think he should stay focused, right? He should stay focused on the issue. Is that if he was anyone else, he would not have been indicted. I'm just reminded of why there's a what do you call it? A statement at the beginning of the show that says 98.7 The Coast is not responsible for what I'm about to say. But he shouldn't be doing that. Like, I absolutely agree with people who are upset with 45 for talking about what isn't the issue. Because, quite honestly, in my opinion, he stands on the issue. He's on solid ground with this being a political persecution or prosecution. Or both, actually. When it comes down to it, it really is both. It's ridiculous. It's upsetting. There's so many reasons why it's problematic. And I think that when we talk about it, just from a messaging perspective, those of us who are upset about it should stick to the topic, should stick to the issue. It's kind of like, if you get in a fight with someone and they've done something wrong to you, like they stole something from you, but then you're like, they're also ugly. Like, that has nothing to do with the fact that they stole something from you. So stay on topic that the theft is the issue. And the same thing with President Trump. I wish he would stay on the issue. And he's got plenty to stand on in that regard. I mean, Bragg, for example, campaigned. What you may or may not know this about the district attorneys in New York and in those districts, but they are elected. They're not appointed. And he ran on the fact that he has already sued the Trump family and Donald Trump personally over 100 times. I don't know how that's not prosecutorial harassment because he's only won. I think he's won for 100 on suing them. He received $1 million from George Soros. And if you don't know who he is, take a look. Take a little Google search. I could spend an entire show on George Soros and his funding left wing radicals. I'm just going to say it. That's what he does. He also is described as woke. Now, I have my own definition for woke. If you'll indulge me. Now, woke usually, I just want to digress for a moment. Woke typically stands for someone who is supposed to be enlightened and is just more empathetic and things like that. But to me, and from a political perspective, woke stands for without knowledge and education. Put that in your hat. If you are woke, that is usually based on emotion and a lack of knowledge and a lack of education about said topic. I'm just saying. And that typically is the case. The other issues that we have is that President Trump didn't do what they're saying he did. The payments, if you peel back the onion on this indictment, the payments in question, one of the things that Bragg is saying is that President Trump was trying to influence the election by making this payment arrangement with Stormy Daniels, which is ridiculous to even call her that. That's not really her name, but with Stormy Daniels. That's what he was doing. Not one payment was made, not one check was written until after the election. So how was he trying to unduly influence the election? It's also alleged that he was trying to defraud who? The people? Defraud his own company? Who was he defrauding? Exactly. And in order for it to rise to a felony, which is what the district attorney is asserting, there needs to be in the commission of another crime, which in the indictment, he doesn't reveal what that other crime is. Perhaps a strategy, perhaps it's because he has nothing. I'm not sure yet. I'm not an attorney. This is election interference. So I find a hypocrisy stunning that one of the things that the district attorney is accusing President Trump of is election interference when President Trump is running for election and this indictment is election interference. How could it not be? And they tried to get a gag order put on President Trump. That's election interference. How could it not be? Sure it is. Never before has a former president been charged. It's unprecedented. He is a former president and he's a candidate. The whole thing is entirely ridiculous and it's political. Now, here's the real killer for me. Here's what I don't understand about people in the political realm who do these things. Remember when, I'm old enough to remember, when Harry Reid was in the Senate and Obamacare was being voted on. And the Senate exercised what was called the nuclear option, which required that you needed to have less votes in order to get a law through. That's the simplified version of the nuclear option, and making that available to the Senate in order to pass some legislations. I recall some of us on the right saying, if you do that, eventually we're going to have the majority and we're going to do the same thing. And lo and behold, here years later, that's exactly what has happened. Now, I said all that to say that if we're going to start doing political prosecutions of politicians, if you don't think that there are Republican district attorneys in cities all over the country just waiting to politically prosecute some other politicians that are doing bad things, you would be wrong. I'm not saying that they're right in doing that. I think all of it is a bunch of BS, but this is how politics works. It's tit for tat. This is how it works, especially when it comes to the big leagues. So, District Attorney Bragg, I hope it was worth it. But just remember, what comes around goes around, sir. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We'll be right back.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the Tax Mama. Yes, the Tax Mama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. Seize the opportunity to excel with the Tax Mama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The Tax Mama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest the first hour is the co-founder of InstaTHINK, Nina Szewczak. She is swinging by to discuss ChatGPT and how it's changing the game for women entrepreneurs. Nina is a returning guest to the show. Very excited to have her back. Her experience and expertise combine over 17 years of work and study in the realm of transformation and challenge, leadership and management, coaching, mentoring, and HR and revolutionizing lives. She has completely transformed her own life twice. So in addition to being entering the realm of AI, which we'll talk a bit more about that, you might want to delve into the archives of Money Talk with Melanie, where you'll find her talking about how to transform your life at middle age. Not that we're ever middle-aged, we're always awesome. But without further ado, welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Nina Szewczak, how are you?
Thank you so much also, Melanie. I am so happy to be here, and I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you back. I'm really excited to talk about this topic, especially since, it's kind of what's going on right now. It's a really hot thing. Some people are super afraid of it. I mean, the creator of AI said that he's kind of afraid of it, which makes me afraid. But I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm sure this is not the last time AI is going to come up with Money Talk with Melanie. Can you add a little more to your bio, or is there anything you'd like to add to your bio that I didn't mention?
No, I think you summarized it really well. In general, when it comes to AI in particular and that kind of part of my bio, there's a couple of things. There's one thing where it can help us in the immediate, and it can help us to be more efficient and run our businesses better and create more time. But in the long run, I see, the big picture as a huge potential for AI to actually help us to bridge the gender gap and create a more equal and inclusive world. So that's where my drive and passion actually is, the big picture. It's nice to focus on the basics, but actually let's have a look at how we can really support us as a society in a good way.
For sure. And that's, I think it's like anything else. This reminds me of when social media came around, right? Like you can use it for many, many wonderful things, right? But then, there's always people who will find a way to use it for bad things. I don't know what is wrong with those people, except for them just being generally evil. But, there's lots of bad things that they can be used for. Now, I want to, before we even kind of go further into the AI aspects, I want to make sure we flesh out a little bit about what we are talking about when we're saying we're going to create a world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Because I have to tell you, this is just full disclosure, and I think my audience kind of knows this about me. I think, actually, using social media as an example, again, like there were very good intentions with the whole DEI movement, right? The whole diversity, equality, inclusive movement had really, really good intentions. But then I think, there are people who have taken it and now it means something totally different. And it's actually like doing the reverse. Like it's not, at least the people who seem to be holding on to it are not inclusive of certain things, not inclusive of Christians, not inclusive of cis white males. Not like, if it's going to include everybody, then it should include everyone, in my opinion. And, I feel like you and I have a rapport and we can kind of talk openly about that part before we talk about how AI can help us move toward that goal.
I 100% agree, Melanie. And like with everything, I always think it's not about the tool itself. It's about whose hands is it in and how it's being used. So even when you think about money, and how often do we hear that money is at the root of all evil? Well, actually, if you think about cash itself or even digital money, that in itself is no different to the chair that I'm sitting on or, the phone that we're talking on or whatever. It's just an item. But who is being used by and how it's being used is what makes the difference. And that's where I think, this is what we need to be aware of and think, where do we put the power and how do we create that equality? And I also 100% agree that we need to include everyone. So part of even in InstaTHINK, like, is actually co-founded by a male and female. So my co-founder is a male because we believe in including everyone. But we also need to include, like you said, everyone and not just white male, white female.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. And I have these conversations with people that I'm close to, people who lean the same way I do politically, but that are very pro DEI. And when I have these conversations with different people, and I tell them the ways in which DEI have been presented to me, the way it has been used in the areas in which I work, they're like, yeah, that's not the way that's supposed to work. That's not the way. That is not the way DEI is supposed to work. That is not the way you're supposed to be applying it. And, I know that I have a rather conservative audience, and I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on what we were talking about before we move forward, because I think I have dabbled in some AI, and I do think that you make a pretty fair argument on, how DEI comes out, how you're, like you said, it depends on who's using it, and how the results that you get when you use AI. And you have to be a critical thinker. And what worries me about the AI situation is, as a former teacher, what worries me is the level of laziness just since the advent of the internet. Kids when they would cheat and copy their work, it was clear that they literally copied and pasted the answers and had no idea what they meant. And you're not learning if that's what you're doing. So that concerns me, that there's kind of another easier way for people to do these things. But let's backtrack a little bit. Can you kind of explain to the audience in the context of business what AI is?
Well, AI as an artificial intelligence, ironically, I actually call it my system. So I've been using ChatGPT since it became publicly available at the end of November last year. And basically, it's a tool that you can use just like we use Google. And I often see that women are now very often kind of cautious or think, do I need to be a tech expert? And you don't. You use it just like you use Google. But of course, the more you use it, the more it gets to know you, the better kind of the relationship you have with it, the more accurate it is. And this is where we need to get involved, everyone, to make it more inclusive. Because at the moment, AI is predominantly developed and trained and indexing content that is obviously put in by men. So artificial intelligence is trained by basically being fed by vast amounts of data. But at the moment, that data comes predominantly from men. And it basically just perpetuates the systems that we have within the society, the gender gaps, the inequalities, the lack of inclusion and lack of diversity. So as we know, AI has such a huge amount of power. But if we continue to use it how we use it, and if we continue to give men all the power, it's just going to perpetuate the systems that we have got right now. And actually, that's not going to help us as a society. So then, when I think that the latest stats from the UN are that gender equality is going to take us 300 years, I'm thinking, well, that's just bang on unacceptable, right? But people look at it and they're like, oh, okay, well, it's 300 years. And I'm like, are we seriously just going to accept that and not do anything about it? Like, we have got a massive opportunity here to change it, but we need people on board with that, and we need to make sure, like, going back to your point about how it's being used and actually, DEI and what it was meant to be and then what it turned out to be and how, the two don't necessarily match. Like, that's what we need to discuss, and that's what we need to be very aware of and be intentional about what are we doing with this and how are we using this to help us as humanity.
For sure. And I think, even the topic of gender equality is very, like, it's a dicey situation, right? Like, I'm old fashioned. I believe that, yes, can I open my own door? Absolutely. Do I prefer that a man open it for me? Also, absolutely. So it doesn't mean, I don't think that those kinds of things means that we're unequal. Now, there are other inequalities, right, where, a woman who doesn't get paid the same exact salary as a man doing the same job. Now, again, it's what I talked about earlier. Like the devil's always in the details. Like if you've only been at that job for a year and you're an engineer and you have a male engineer that's been doing that job for 5 years, then in my opinion, yeah, they should be making more money because they have 5 years more experience than you do, or they've been at that job for 5 more years. So is that necessarily a gender inequality issue? But I think some people have taken those kinds of examples without looking at the details and saying that's gender inequality, or now it's meant to mean that yes, women should be construction workers. I'm not saying that women shouldn't be construction workers. Don't misunderstand me. I think if you can and you're for it and you like it and you can do it just as well as anybody else, absolutely do it. Nobody should be barred from that. And it's very similar, like what you're saying is that the AI comes from kind of a male perspective, I guess is what your argument is.
Absolutely. And I totally agree, when it comes to your example about, can I open my own door or do I prefer someone else open it to me? I think it's about choice, right? It's about deciding whether that's what I want or whether I want to go into construction or not, and not feel like if I do want to go into construction or if I do want to go into tech, that I have got extra hoops to jump through. But also equally, I totally understand the argument and I agree with that you can't compare apples and pears and then say that they're unequal. So if there are differences in, length of experience or, differences in expertise or qualifications or whatever, then that's really incomparable. Like we really need to, if we are talking about equality and equity, we need to compare things that are truly, equal and not different.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And in society does it with a lot of things, and I think it's about power control, but that's a different show. So talk about your solution to AI kind of having a male voice. You have presented a solution.
Yeah, well, I feel very strongly about it because if AI continues to be trained as it is, then, if I don't have children, but if I had a daughter or my friend's daughter, whatever, ask AI what career could I go into, then AI currently will have the same biases as we have in society. It is more likely to recommend roles that are predominantly seen female roles right now, and maybe not recommend some of the more well-paid jobs that currently are associated with more male-dominated environments. So, of course, this is a massive topic, but as part of our solution is we're basically starting a global movement called the Sisterhood of AI, which is going to be a membership that allows women to learn how to use ChatGPT and other AI tools. So to help us to learn the tools and basically be able to be more efficient with our businesses and generate more time and save more money and all the stuff that we all want on a day-to-day basis. So that's part of it. And obviously by more women using AI, the AI will get trained more by women, which is going to help. But the other side of it is that for every person joining the movement and joining the membership, another membership will be freely given to another woman from an underprivileged background or with limited resources. Because one of my favorite quotes of all times is that of Audrey Hepburn, that as you grow older, you realize that you have two hands for a reason, one to help yourself and one to help others.
Indeed.
And I believe that we need to make AI more accessible, so enabling easier and faster access to tech for women from all backgrounds. We need to make sure that we provide education and training so women don't feel scared, of it. We need to build a community that's supportive and empowering, and we need to use, where we have the power and privileges, we need to use this as an opportunity towards building a more equal and inclusive world. So I'm all about providing support and guidance to aspiring and existing female entrepreneurs, and also, creating role models, because you can't be what you can't see, If we haven't got enough role models for the next generation, it's very hard to see yourself in positions where you haven't seen, anyone like you before. Like, it's not impossible, but it's much harder than if you see those examples.
I have heard that, and they say that in the DEI kind of sphere all the time. I don't necessarily disagree with that, I think there's something to be said for being a first, but I also agree that sometimes it doesn't click in your mind that that's a possibility until you see someone else doing it. It's a very fine line that we walk, right? Like on the one hand, we want everybody to believe that they can do everything, and it's good to be a first. You don't want, but you also don't want to perpetuate, at least in my opinion, a mindset that you're always the victim. Like I have a very big problem with the victimhood mindset. A huge one of the reasons why I'm not teaching anymore is because I think that at least in the places that I've taught, a victimhood mindset was perpetuated for women and quite honestly Black and brown people, and it was distressing, and I didn't like it. Instead of encouraging, just going ahead and encouraging people to do better and filling in those gaps. Like here you see a gap when it comes to women and AI, and you're saying we need to fill that gap. More women, a lot of women don't go into STEM. Women should be encouraged to go into STEM. I don't think a lot of people know that the mathematics done by the first computer was by a woman. I remind men, mainly misogynists all the time, that computer that you're typing on wouldn't be possible without Ida Lovelace, sir. So, and her mathematical skills. So it's very important that while we're striving for equity, we don't always make ourselves victims because we're a woman, because we're Black, because of whatever the circumstances, we're a victim. Know that you can always be victorious.
Oh, absolutely. And I am totally not for victimhood. And I've always had the same attitude as you, I think. I've never felt that my background or my gender or whatever is going to hold me back from what I want to do. But equally, I also know that, throughout history, there's been so many women in science where, I don't know, you probably know about the Matilda effect that was coined by Margaret Rossiter in 1993, where there's been so many women in science that actually haven't even been given the credit. Like all of the contributions have gone under the names of the husbands or other males, even though it was the women behind the work. So I think that's something for us to work on and change to make sure that, credit where credit is due and role models where there are role models and are trailblazing and not feeling like victims, and equally also saying when things are not right. Like if there isn't a seat at the table, I want to bring my own table, and I'll be very clear about that.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. I am 100% with you on that. Like, wait a minute, where's my seat? let me help you with that, sir, because I got this one right here. So we have 2 minutes, 2 minutes to the break. I want you to just talk about the power of AI for 1 second. It's not only in business, it's everywhere. But in business, as far as entrepreneurs, one of the things you were saying is that it can help you work more efficiently. I agree with that. A friend of mine who's a cybersecurity expert is the one who really turned me on to AI. And I was like, oh, sir, you created a monster. But how powerful is it?
It's immense, Melanie. It's immense. And what I see is that people say, oh, like it can create the social media post. Yes, it can, but that's like a simple thing. Helpful, but actually it's so much more helpful than this because it literally does everything for you, from idea generation for a new business, through generating a business plan, through creating competitor analysis, through generating strategies, doing your SWOT analysis, generating your content, and everything in between, to even creating exit strategy and even finding you a supportive network of other founders or coaches around. So it is incredibly powerful, but you need to learn how to use it. So if you ask it, give me ideas for business, it will give you ideas for business, but that's a pretty vague prompt, right?
Yes.
So then you have to ask it 10 more questions to get to the idea that maybe you want. But if you say, I want to start a business, I'm a female entrepreneur, I want to target women between, 25 and 35, and my business is going to be in ethically sourced metal, jewelry making, whatever, then it's going to give you ideas that actually are tailored to what you're trying to achieve rather than just a random generation of ideas. So teaching, giving it the right prompts is key.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. We're up against a break. I can't wait to talk about, when we come back, I want to talk about whether or not AI is going to take away jobs, and it speaks to what you were just talking about. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie.
Want a dependable career instead of a job? Tax Mama is here for you. You can become an IRS enrolled agent and learn everything there is to know about tax practice and law with the Tax Mama. Right now, log on to irsexams.school to explore a sample class. The Tax Mama IRS enrolled agent course is accredited by the Internal Revenue Service for continuing education and may be paid by unemployment or social services agencies. Why wait? Don't just get a job. Get a career by becoming an IRS enrolled agent through the Tax Mama today. Visit irsexams.school now.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Guest interviews include entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Be sure to listen up. This is important because it's your money.
Your money.
Be sure to listen to Money Talk with Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie.
Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie is brought to you by the Tax Mama, Eva Rosenberg. Visit taxmama.com.
Very nice job done by our producer, Mark, on that promo. Nicely done. I like it. Thank you, Eva Rosenberg, for sponsoring Money Talk with Melanie. We adore her. Absolutely adore her. So we're back on with Nina Szewczak, and we're talking about AI. We're talking about AI as far as its use for female entrepreneurs. Before the break, we were talking about how powerful AI can be and, how powerful it is. To your point, you were saying that it's very important to know what kinds of prompts to use when you're attempting to use AI. Teachers, when it first hit the news, were freaking out about AI. But because students were using it. But if you actually read the papers, you know that they used AI. Like, you can tell. If you use AI yourself and you've ever attempted to use it, I think you can tell. And that's why it's important to still know your stuff. Like, AI doesn't substitute knowing stuff. And I'm afraid that that's what the generation is going to do. Just kind of like QuickBooks doesn't substitute actually knowing accounting. You know what I mean? Like, it helps you move the ball forward quicker, but you still need to know accounting.
Absolutely. You still need to be expert in your topic, and you still want to learn the right things. I totally agree. And if you use it, you can totally tell that it's written by AI. But it's no different than having a conversation with a human. If you said to me, can you help me create a strategy? Then my question would be, well, Melanie, what's your vision, right? Explain that first. And then, it's a question and answer, and it's big and deep. So it's using it wisely where it can contribute and help you to do research, but ultimately you still want to know those things, right? Otherwise, what are you doing? Just generating useless content that you don't understand? Yes,
and you can't detect bias. Now, I'm not going to throw shade on the app that I was playing with, because I don't want to get sued. But but I was playing. But there's an app that's kind of popular in social media that I was playing with. They're doing a beta test of their AI component, and some of their results that I was getting back was a matter of, in my opinion, opinion and not fact. Like, it was bias. It was clearly biased information, but you have to know about what you're looking up to know that it's biased information. Like, I had asked some question, I forget what it was about. Maybe it was about green energy, whatever it was about. But so it explained basically like how horrible stuff, fossil fuels are, like as if it were fact that there were no benefits to fossil fuels whatsoever and that they were the devil, which is not, that's not accurate. That's bias information. So to your point, I think not only is it important to know the facts, but you really do need to be able to recognize bias when it rears its ugly head, remembering that AI is just pulling information that's on the internet. And there's plenty of biased information on the internet. So that's absolutely. Yeah. So that's a concern as well, right?
Yeah, but Melanie, I think this is also no different to, if you look on Wikipedia, like I'm a forever student, I basically finished one master's, I go for another. And every time people when you don't use Wikipedia for things because things are inaccurate, and you just know that you know that whatever you even check on Google, you have to double and triple check your facts. You can't just. And I think this is part of the issue that we have in societies everywhere, that people just see something on the internet and they take it as a fact, and they take it as it's real, and they take it as the truth. And it's not. What we need to teach ourselves and, the younger generations is critical thinking, is being able to ask questions like, is this right? Is this true? Do I believe this? Where did this come from? Can I trace this piece of information back to something, and so on? Because there is so much untruth and so much bias everywhere online.
Yes.
So we need to be able to, to dig deeper, and in order to actually develop opinions and not just take an opinion from Twitter or TikTok or whatever else and run with it as in, this is what the reality is. No. Take all the stuff and then think, what do I actually think about this based on my experience, based on what I'm learning, based on what I've read here, there, and everywhere. Like, based on what I'm cross-checking in terms of research, like, what is my opinion on this, rather than just taking something at a face value and thinking that this is it.
Exactly. And if you keep doing, at least this is what I found, and experimenting with it, like if you keep kind of asking it the same question, it will give you several different versions on like both sides. But if you only run it once, which I'm channeling kind of like that classic lazy student that's like, woo, now I'm going to get, ChatGPT to do my homework and just put questions in and just copy and paste whatever the answer is, that is not going to work if you don't know what you're talking about. It's just not.
It's not going to work, and you're going to be found out, and you're going to put untruth. So ChatGPT also makes things up. It lies. And it's funny because actually when you ask it why I lied, it apologizes to you. It's a very human behavior. It's actually quite hilarious.
Wait a minute, it tells lies and then I haven't experienced that yet.
And then, so I asked it for some statistic, and it gave me a statistic. I was doing it as an experiment, right? And it gave me a statistic, and I said, okay, where's the statistic? Give me the reference. And it gave me a reference, and it genuinely looked like a genuine reference. So then I go and check it, and I can't find it. So I'm saying, where is this reference from? And it says, oh, it's from Forbes article titled whatever. I can't remember what the title was. So I go and try to find the article. The article does not exist. So I'm saying to her, like, listen, this article doesn't seem to exist. And it says, oh, I'm really sorry. Upon reflection, I realized that this wasn't a fact.
What?
So I really apologize, right? So
what?
It makes things up sometimes.
That is not okay. And this is what people need to know and understand. Like, you really have to put this in the right context. So speaking of which, one of the concerns that I've heard people have about AI is it's going to take your job. Nobody's going to have a job. Writers aren't going to have a job anymore. Teachers are going to be irrelevant. Like, nobody's going to have a job anymore because of AI. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, okay, so before tractors were invented, we didn't have tractors, and then they came in, and did the human population go extinct? No. And then when internet got invented and a computer got invented, did the human population go extinct because suddenly we were able to use technology? Well, no. I feel that this is no different. And actually, I think, like, let's use it. So in my opinion, let's give AI and technology all the meaningless tasks and tasks that are taking so much of our lives, that don't enrich our lives, that are driving us to live in survival mode, so we can create more space to actually make meaningful connections, to connect to our hearts, to spend more time with our families. And to me, the human element will always be needed. And I actually saw someone on Twitter, I can't remember exactly the name, but I think the Twitter user was called Santiago, said something back in January that AI will not replace you. A person using AI will. And yes. I kind of agree with it, because I think, the people who are afraid of it, if you sit in a corner and you think it's going to take my job away, well, someone else definitely will, because the people who are getting on board with it, if you are I don't know, if you work in marketing, let's say, if you start using it now, you're able to save so much time. You're able to serve more customers. You're able to be more creative because it helps immensely with creativity and with speed and so on. So if you're on it, actually, you will be thriving. But like with everything, everything can be an opportunity, but you have to see as such and you have to get on board with it. If you're just afraid of it and decide not to touch it, then of course someone else will come in and they will be using it and they will use it, to their advantage and will probably take over.
I agree. I really do agree with you. I think and I'm a techie person anyway. You probably are as well. Like I love new technology, like, bring it on. So I was very interested in this. And I had some questions about how a friend of mine was getting this stuff done so quickly. I was like, wow, he does all this and he has time to do this too. And I'm like, how are you getting it done? He's like, I have a secret. And he shows me AI. And I'm like, sir. He's like, you're a busy person too. You definitely need to check out AI because it is a time saver, particularly in areas, in my opinion, where you don't know where to start. Where you're like, I don't even know what to say about this, right? And you'll just I use like content improvers is what I use the most. Like, this is what I want to say, but I want to say it better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to say it better. So I'll ask it to put this another way. So it's kind of like, and if I don't like it, then I'll say, okay, I want it to be witty, because that's one of my most proud character traits. Bubbly, witty, make it more witty. I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's the witty. But but a lot of times it does lie. A lot of times it takes what you said, what you asked it for, and phrases it incorrectly. Like, that's not what I asked you to say. That's not what I was talking about at all when I said that. So you do have to be very careful. So I think there probably are some maybe robotic kind of jobs, but I don't think it's going to replace judgment. I think it's just going to help people do their jobs better.
I agree. And I think, so if we talk about writers, yes, it can probably write a book, but can it really? So I'm writing a book about my life. Can it write a book about my life? Well, no, because it doesn't have emotions and it cannot express what I'm feeling or what I've been through in the same way. Can it help me to edit it or translate it? Yes. I mean, Melanie, I put my book in and I cannot, I'm like originally from Poland. I could not translate from English to Polish because I haven't spoken that language for such a long time. I asked her to translate it, and I'm literally looking at the screen like in awe and mesmerized at how quickly and accurately it translates to a language that I know, but I'm apparently now incapable of translating to.
Right, but now, and it probably did have some things along the way where you're like, no, that doesn't mean what that's. Let me edit that. That's not exactly what I meant to say there, right? In Polish, maybe that's not
absolutely
right.
Yeah. You have to, so you still have to edit it. And the way I see it is rather than, me having to write the whole piece now in Polish, which is going to take me forever because I'm like, languages evolve and I haven't been in Poland for such a long time. I didn't evolve with the language. So it's much easier for me to use it to translate it, and then I'll read through it and I'll make edits to make sure that actually this is exactly how I wanted it to come across, or this is what I wanted to say. But rather than having to write in Polish and spend ages on it, I'll ask it to translate, and then I do the edits, which is much quicker.
Right, that's exactly right.
And why would I want to waste time? Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right. So there's some common misunderstandings about artificial intelligence. There are people who think it's harmful to humanity, for example. What is your opinion on that?
I tell you what, Melanie, this is an interesting one because I was actually speaking to a friend in the US. I was on the phone and I'm in the UK and I'm over the fence. I have an army base. Every day I have gunshots and bombs going off all the time. So we're talking about the dangers of AI to humanity. And I said to him, I'm like, isn't it ironic that we are talking about technology that we're developing, that we can develop how we want to develop, yet I have got bombs and guns going off 24/7, and we're training humans to kill other humans, and no one even blinks an eye, and we think that that's normal. And we have got war going on, in many places in the world, but especially the war with Ukraine. It's obviously been on everyone's mind. And it's interesting how the language has changed, from initially when people were telling me about it, and in discussions, you can hear the disbelief, the shock, the fear, and everything in between. And now when I hear about the people, oh yeah, the war is still going on in Ukraine, it just became part of the norm, just like us training humans to kill other humans, right? So I'm like, we don't need AI to destroy us. We're doing it ourselves already.
It's not a terrible point that you're making there, and we needed not one bit of technology to get into that war, no matter who you think is right or wrong in that situation. Artificial intelligence surely had nothing to do with causing the wars that are going on around the world. I think there are some people who also think, we only have 2 minutes left. I just got the 2 minute warning. That it's a novel technical advance, that it's like brand spanking new. But it's not, is it?
It's not. It's not new, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more powerful. And I think that rather than polarizing, as always, is it good? Is it bad? Is it going to be harmful, or is it going to be helpful? The question for me is, how do we use it and develop it in a way that helps us as humanity? That is the question. Not good or bad, yes or no, right and wrong. But how do we use it, and how do we all get on board in order to make it effective? And in order for us as humanity to get out of the survival mode, to get out of the misery, to get out of everyone feeling, constantly under pressure, burnt out, running around like headless chickens, let's use it for the things that it can help us with. But let's train it in a way that it can actually be helpful rather than for us to be afraid of it.
That's exactly right. It's going to be destructive and evil when destructive and evil people go to use it for destructive and evil things. It's going to be altruistic and helpful when altruistic and helpful people use it to do great things. It's always going to come back to what humanity decides to do. Tell people where they can find you and where they can get the latest updates on, what's it called again? Name it again. I want to make sure that I have it correct. Sisterhood AI?
It's the Sisterhood of AI, but the umbrella brand is InstaTHINK. So it's InstaTHINK.xyz. So if you go to that website, we're posting our updates there. So we'll be launching a book and a membership. So there will be a book called Let's Chat, ChatGPT for Female Entrepreneurs. It's just basically how to use my sister, as I call it, and then the movement and the membership as well.
I like it very much. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to keep track of InstaTHINK.xyz and see what's going on in the Sisterhood of AI. Thank you so much for coming on the show again and talking about this important topic.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Melanie. I absolutely love you and your energy and your approach to life, and it's been such an honor and pleasure again.
Likewise, sis. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Unemployed
Bye-bye.
or underemployed? Have no fear. The Tax Mama is here. Fuel your best career move with Tax Mama. Tax Mama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. Tax Mama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the Tax Mama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today.
The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, regional media, coastal broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie
Money Talk with Melanie.
on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. You know what I think I didn't say? You're in the second hour, but I don't think I said I am your host, Melanie Collette. in case you were unaware, we're in the second hour, and I don't think I said it at all. I'm bad in a little allergy situation. I think the Allegra or whatever it is that is getting to my head. But I'm your host, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from Wildwood, New Jersey here on Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest the second hour will be Evie Brooks. She's from My Panama Vacations Realty, and she's going to help us explore what's driving Americans abroad in pursuit of a digital nomad lifestyle. Sounds very interesting to me. Lots of fun going abroad, but some people are doing it to work so they can just roam around while working. Nothing wrong with that. But before we do, a few news items to talk about. I saw this article the other day and I thought, I like this very much. And I think people could use the encouragement. The article is from Inc. magazine. And the article was called 5 Signs You're Actually Pretty Good with Money. And the subtitle says, don't let a low bank balance discourage you. If you can check these boxes, you're on the right track financially, according to a finance professor. So it made some very interesting points that I thought, if you are right now struggling and things look tight, does it mean that I am terrible with my money? Well, not necessarily so. So one of the first points that the article makes is if you track your cash flow, do you actually use some kind of tracker? Do you keep track? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be an app. A lot of people swear by the old school envelope method. Just a quick and dirty of what that is. It's when you take your money, like actual cash, you just use all your cash, you put it in envelopes by category. So say like eating out is one category, rent is another category, gas is another category. You put the cash in there, all the cash that you are going to spend. And then once that envelope is empty, you're done. That's kind of an old school way to do it, but old school still works. Old school doesn't mean bad. Old school doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that it's a tried and true method, in my opinion. So if you keep track, whether it's on an app or the old school envelope method, you are doing well for yourself financially. And it can vary depending on what kind of job you have, some people get paid, $10.99 if you're in the gig economy or the entrepreneurial space. Some people get paid a salary. It's a tad easier if you have a salary. But if you're keeping track, you're doing well. Another hint is that you distinguish between good debt and bad debt. This is a very important one right now. If you subscribe to the Dave Ramsey school of thought, no debt is good. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, sometimes, I feel like sometimes you kind of have to, but do you? I mean, if you ever watch his show or listen to his show, I actually taught using his curriculum, Financial Lit, using his curriculum one time. And he shows you several examples of how people can even buy houses without going into any kind of debt. Like you buy it. You have to make a lot of sacrifices, though. That's the thing. And a lot of people are not willing to make those sacrifices. And by a lot of people, I mean me. I'm one of those people. I mean, I'm like, Dave, that is good. And you're right. It can be done, but not me. But some people do. It depends. So you have to know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is if it's used to improve your long-term financial position or net worth, such as a home loan. So that's not a terrible investment, but all homes are not created equal either, so you still got to be careful. Bad debt, on the other hand, refers to when it's something that's consumption. It's consumption driven. It's a waste. It doesn't have lasting values. Particularly when you're talking about shopping. I feel convicted. Like, do you really need another dress? Do you really need another pair of pants? Do you really need another pair of shoes? Those kinds of things. Oh, God forbid, a payday loan. That's terrible debt. So you got to be really careful about that. Another sign that you were doing well financially, that you have good financial senses, is that you diversify. And what we mean by diversify is to have your money in different places. When you look at things like the Silicon Valley Bank that recently collapsed, the collapse of FTX, that crypto company, those kinds of things, there are people who had like all their money in that one space. And the reason why you shouldn't do that is because if something bad were to happen, you're not completely ruined. So it's a good idea to make sure that you diversify. I know you hear that a lot in investing, but that's with your finances in general, that there should be some diversification there. You want to kind of spread your money across various different places: property, a savings account, a market, a money market, something like that. Just make sure that you don't have a concentration of risk in one place. Very important to make sure that you do that. That's how you protect your money. So if you're doing that already, if you diversify, but things seem tight, that doesn't mean you're not doing well. You're still doing well. So pat yourself on the back. Number 4, you know your own weaknesses. And this is an important one. There's another kind of famous money person. I think her name is Susie Orman, I want to say. And she talks about this all the time. She says people first, then money, I think is her motto. And she's very right. And this speaks to making sure that your mind is right when it comes to your money. What is your attitude toward money? Did you grow up in a place of scarcity? If you grew up poor, sometimes it can do one of two things. It can either make you be really irresponsible with money because now you have money, you have a job, or you think you have money, but it's just that you have a lot more than you had when you were poor, when you grew up like in a poverty situation, and now you're super irresponsible. Or it can do the other thing. You can go the other way. It can make you very, very tight with money and keep money in your mattress. Like, we have a generation that grew up during the Great Depression where, banks failed all over the place and cash was not accessible. So now, you're putting your money in your mattress. Those kinds of attitudes can affect you with how you deal with money today. So you do some self-examination and understand your patterns where money is concerned. That make sure that you're not comforting yourself by buying stuff when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling stressed. Some of us eat food, some of us shop for shoes, some of us do both. Raising my hand over here, just kidding, but not really. So you need to be really careful about what you're doing with your money and how your personality, your emotions, your past affects how you spend money. That way you avoid making financial mistakes. If you're already doing this, good for you. That means you're good with your money. Number 5, and the last one, is that you have some financial goals. Some people want to retire by 45. Some people want to be millionaires. Young people, if you're young and you're listening to my show, if you're 18, 19, 20, 25 years old, start investing now. Look up cumulative interest. I'm telling you. Trust me when I tell you I would not be working right now had I known about cumulative interest when I was a young person. Have a financial goal. Always keep them in mind. It's just a very, very good idea. So if you have financial goals, if you know your own weaknesses when it comes to money and spending, if you diversify, if you know the difference between good and bad debt, and you track your cash flow, congratulations, you actually are good with money. And just because you have a tight bank account does not mean that you're not. It's coming. Stay on the good foot, keep on the right track, and you'll be fine. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Evie Brooks.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the Tax Mama. Yes, the Tax Mama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. Seize the opportunity to excel with the Tax Mama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, taxes, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The Tax Mama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics
Money Talk with Melanie.
on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We are entering into our second hour. Actually, we are well into the second hour, to be honest. It is 8:15. We are in the second hour. If you missed the first hour with Nina Szewczak, by the way, make sure that you check out Money Talk with Melanie as the podcast by jumping on to the 98.7 The Coast website by tomorrow or the next day when it will be posted, or you can follow me on Money Talk with Melanie at Money Talk Mel on Twitter or Money Talk with Melanie Facebook page. It will be posted there as well and uploaded on YouTube. I forgot to say that in the last break. I apologize. So our guest for the second hour is Evie Brooks. She is from Panama Vacations Realty. We're going to explore with her why Americans abroad are in pursuit of digital nomad lifestyles. Very interesting. A bit about Evie Brooks. She is a former Rich Dad, Poor Dad advanced trainer, a real estate educator and investor, and My Panama Vacation Realty founder who has guided thousands of investors for 27 plus years through the process of locating, evaluating, and analyzing transactions for cash flow and return on investment. Evie has been a keynote speaker and trainer in 13 plus countries and 30 plus states in the United States. Brooks' work has been featured on Joe Fairless, Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever, ESPN Cover Your Assets, Think Realty, Realtor.com, The Real Estate Syndication Show, Women Investing Network, Voice America, Moving Abroad Podcast, Atlanta Business Radio, and Jennifer J. Hammond Show. Many, many more investing podcasts. Just as a disclaimer, Brooks or her employees do not give out investment or tax advice, just so you know. So just to be clear. But without further ado, Evie Brooks.
Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. It's a very interesting topic to me. I was glad to see this because I think, especially with COVID and the whole remote thing, more and more people are examining the possibilities of not having to be in one place to do their job, right?
That's absolutely true. That's correct. And we're seeing more and more of it now. Especially since the COVID situation with the digital nomads. Of course, before that, I was primarily just working with those that wanted to become expats or invest internationally, have a plan B, things like that. But the digital nomad is becoming a huge niche market in and of itself also.
Okay, and so what is a digital nomad exactly? That's not just somebody who works remotely, right? It's much more than that.
Well, in reality, it's just someone that leaves their home country, crosses over the borders to other countries, and is looking for a place to be able to basically put their toes in the sand while they're working. It's a lifestyle as much as anything. So it's people that want to be able to travel internationally and be able to work from wherever they happen to be.
That sounds fantastic. I like it. I like it a lot. So you deal in real estate in particular, and real estate abroad and investing abroad. What led you to go into that kind of specialized market?
Well, I got my start with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad organization, becoming an expat, an expatriate in Costa Rica. That's where I got my start in Central America, international, and working with the expat market. So that was back in 2003 that I was in the Costa Rica market. I stayed there through the crash of 2008 and held on for dear life until 2012 when I finally gave up because Costa Rica did not come back well from the crash in 2008, but yet Panama had just continued to move right along without so much as a hiccup after the crash of 2008. So I decided to cross over the border, and I've been there since 2012 now.
Oh, wow. Now, explain specifically what an expatriate is.
An expatriate is someone that is looking to have either a residence or a citizenship in another country. They're wanting to either have a second passport or a second residency internationally, or many times you will have people that actually literally, truly do expatriate from their own country. They don't even want to be a citizen of their country any longer. So it's kind of a two-edged sword there. Some people that do want to keep their original citizenship, and then some that do not.
Wow. Some people are just like, I don't want to be a citizen of the. I wonder are there some specific benefits to not being a citizen somewhere else?
That there are, because a lot of people want to escape the tax liabilities that they have in their home country, because taxes have gotten so exorbitant and so overpriced that they want to escape those tax liabilities, and so that's why they would relinquish their original citizenship.
Oh wow, I hadn't even thought about that. I of course am always thinking of like the importance of being an American citizenship in kind of like other contexts. It didn't even occur to me that was a good way to avoid the ridiculousness of our taxes.
Yes.
And it is ridiculous.
More and more people are starting to look at that.
Well, I mean, really, when there are people who are considered to be right-wing, super conservative crazies, often say that taxation is theft. But taxation is theft. Like when you look at how many times the same money is taxed, the same exact money is taxed over and over again, how is that not theft?
Exactly.
Right. And if a business were like the government does that, but if a business were to do that, you'd go to jail.
Exactly. That's absolutely right.
Right. For the exact same financial practices. The government would say, you can't tax that person. You can't charge that person on that money when you already charged them there and there and there. That's illegal.
Exactly.
That's the government. The government is doing that too. That never even occurred to me. Now I see that in an entirely different light. So honestly, never occurred to me that you would have, so I guess you're viewed, if you're an expatriate with residency in another country, even if you're doing business in the United States still, that tax liability is a bit different because I would imagine you're given tax breaks.
Well, you do, but here's the reality of that, Melanie. If you are in a different country and you're doing business and you're making income there, the U.S. government or most countries require you to continue to pay your taxes on that money that was earned internationally back home. So that is why so many people are trying to escape that. Now, what does not happen for U.S. citizens is you're not double taxed. You do not have to pay. In other words, if you pay in Panama any portion of taxes on the income that you've earned there, then if you're in a higher tax bracket here, which you will be, that portion is deducted and you're not double taxed on it.
Well, listen, that's something for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it where I can get it for real.
Absolutely.
My goodness. Okay, so what kind of investment opportunities are abroad that people are deciding to invest abroad rather than in the United States? I know you concentrate in Panama, but as a general concept.
Just as a general concept, it depends on the country that you go to, but one of the real benefits that people are looking at, especially with Panama, is the fact that you do not need any kind of a visa to invest internationally. I literally can have somebody in a property within 72 hours of the time that they call and say, okay, I'm ready to do this, because you don't have you have a non-recourse loan. You have to have no credit requirements. You do not have to have any kind of a visa. As long as you have a passport, you're able to get into an investment project. So that's one of the things that's very, very enticing about Panama as a whole. But in most countries, you do have to have some type of a visa. You have to have different types of requirements for investments, the amount of money that you can show, accessible, credit requirements, and those types of things.
Wow. So now I'm just thinking in terms, it's that time of year, right? It's tax time. So how do you handle your taxes? Do you need a specialized accountant too? Because I'm sure you have to file. Well, I don't know. If you're not a U.S. citizen, do you not have to file taxes at all?
No, if you're not a United States citizen, you no longer file taxes. And there's, again, I have to say that I am not a tax advisor, financial planner. I cannot give tax advice, but I can give you some basic knowledge. Anybody can get this information off the internet. But if you are no longer a citizen of the United States, you do not pay taxes in the United States. You would only pay taxes in the country that you're in. But a lot of people in the United States will purchase their real estate investments through a U.S. LLC. So there's still no taxable issues that they have to address internationally, so they don't have to have any specialized counsel in that country because they purchased the property through a United States entity.
Wow.
And there's many different avenues and approaches that can be used. But again, that's something that we do have a whole entire power team of everything from U.S. attorneys, Panamanian attorneys, CPAs on both sides. And of course, all of our clients are not just from the United States. We have North America is 85% of our business, but we have clients from all around the world. Israel, South Africa, Australia, you name it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. That's amazing. That's incredible. I'm so glad I talked to you about this because this is a whole world I knew nothing about. And I'm certain that there's somebody who's listening that's like, what? You can do what? Wait, you can do what? They probably have their pen and piece of paper out right now. So now your focus is in Panama. Panama. There's a huge, big old world out here. Why are you concentrated in Panama in particular?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. First of all, because of the visa issue, you do not have to have a visa to be able to invest in Panama. All you have to have is a passport. In fact, when I started working there in 2012, if you just use your U.S. license, you do have to have a passport to be able to get a contract. But the visa process, the fact that you have no credit requirements, they're based on the U.S. dollar, so it's easy, it's simple, it's close to get to. There's no requirements as far as credit requirements. So there's just a lot of reasons. Of course, there are many tax benefits and issues that you get investing in Panama. They're very, very support international investors coming into the country, and they have all kinds of programs in place and premiums and things like that to be able to get investors into the country. So that's a big component of investing internationally.
Nice. And does the dollar still do better internationally? You're hearing a lot in economic circles that, there are countries that are kind of negotiating to kind of give a hit to the power of the U.S. dollar as a currency. In your opinion, is the dollar still pretty powerful abroad and go a little bit further?
Well, you don't have the exchange rates like you do in Europe with the euro and, other things like that. But what you do have is, like in Panama, we do not have the inflation in Panama that we have in the United States. So a dozen eggs, you're going to pay about $2 instead of what you're paying here in the States now. I was there last week and I bought 2.5 dozen eggs for $4.30.
Wow.
So, a lot of people are looking at the difference in the inflation there. We've seen some increase, but it is definitely not like it has been in the United States, number one. Number two, you can get so much more bang for your buck for the properties that you're investing in Panama, comparing apples to apples. Say, for example, in Manhattan or Los Angeles or any other types of major cities, Portland, Oregon. When you compare apples to apples, another one is good in Canada is Toronto and Montreal. Basically, what you can buy just a very, very nice 5-star high-end type of an investment property in Panama for, you would pay 3 times, 4 times, 5 times that in some of these other cities, and some of them more than that.
Now, is that because of the type of government or economy that they have? Like, do you have any insight into what attributes to to them not being affected by the level of inflation that the United States has, and other countries as well are having these inflationary issues?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that the inflation is so low, the unemployment is very low. They have the Panama Canal, they have the Cobre copper mines. They've just got a good economy, and the cost of labor is so much less expensive in Panama than it is in the United States and in most of your major countries worldwide. So you've got a much less cost for the labor. And then, of course, we've seen the increase in materials and transportation and things like that. And so we have seen an increase in pricing. However, the cost per square foot, we use meters there, is substantially lower than what you're going to see in any of your major countries or cities. Wow.
I did not know that. I wonder, what form of government do they have over there?
It's a democracy.
Oh, is it? It is a democracy. I don't know why I didn't know that, but I did not.
Yep, they sure do. And they have a presidential election every 5 years.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay, very good. I like that. We like democracies. That's always one. That's always one. That is always one in the okay. I will definitely go visit. If you're a I don't understand people who like to visit like unfriendly countries that don't.
I am with you totally.
You know,
and Panama really supports the friendly nations. There's a friendly nations group, and any friendly nations that's on that list, and I think there's about 50 right now. From around the world can come into Panama just on the passports.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. That is good to know. That's actually Panama is actually on my next cruise list. And now I'm cheating by getting to learn a lot about Panama through you. But I did not know that. I didn't know they were a democracy, and I did not realize they were friendlies. I hadn't heard that they were not friendly, but you never know till you peel back the onion. But I understand when people are like, "Oh, you know where I want a vacation? North Korea." Sounds great. Like, why? Why would you? Why would you go?
Exactly.
Like, no shade on North Korea, but they are not. They do not like us. I'm not in the habit of going places where people don't like me. Just because of where I come from. Oh yeah, I decided to climb mountains in Iraq. Why? Why would you do that? And then like shocked and surprised when you get into trouble. Like I don't.
Exactly.
I don't quite. Yeah, Panama. It sounds about right to me. Absolutely right. So.
Well, they have a mentality of just live and let live, and everybody does their own thing, and there's not people that's trying to convince you that their way of thinking is the right way of thinking, and if you think differently, then you're in the wrong crowd. Or I mean, it's just it's just live and let live. You know, it's a wonderful location.
Do they have warm weather 100% of the time, like all year round?
All year round, even in what they call their winter. It's really their rainy season, but rainy season is not what people think it is. You may have rain for 2 hours during the day, and then the sun comes out, and you don't even realize that it was raining. And most of the time during rainy season, the rain comes during the nighttime, not during the daytime. I've been down there since 2012, so going on 11 years, and I cannot remember more than 2 times that it was overcast for more than 2 days.
Really?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Aruba. People were saying it was raining in Aruba, but it did the same thing. Like it rained like an hour, maybe 15 minutes, and then it was gone. It was fine. and it was windy, and I was like, yeah, that wind is awesome. I don't know what you people are talking about.
Yeah, I like that wind in Aruba too, but now you don't have that kind of wind year-round in Panama. There are a short period of time during the rainy season that you do have some winds, but they're not like they are in Aruba at all.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. We're about to go into a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about if somebody wanted to kind of break into this area of investing, what would be some steps? What are some methods? What are some ways to do that? Especially if you're a novice and you're thinking, you know what? I'm a novice, but I think I'm going to start with Panama. How would you do that? You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We'll be back in a few moments.
Want a dependable career instead of a job? Tax Mama is here for you. You can become an IRS enrolled agent and learn everything there is to know about tax practice and law with the Tax Mama. Right now, log on to irsexams.school to explore a sample class. The Tax Mama IRS enrolled agent course is accredited by the Internal Revenue Service for continuing education and may be paid by unemployment or social services agencies. Why wait? Don't just get a job, get a career by becoming an IRS enrolled agent through the Tax Mama today. Visit irsexams.school now.
98.7 The Coast.
I enjoy the local news content.
Naturally, the local sports and local news is a big plus.
98.7 The Coast.
Are a couple that do need us more than others, and those are the kids that you really want to touch, and just trying to do the best you can to make a positive in life. Thank you, and I want to thank you guys for having me on.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Guest interviews include entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Be sure to listen up. This is important because it's your money.
Your money.
Be sure to listen to Money Talk with Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie.
Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie is brought to you by the Tax Mama, Eva Rosenberg. Visit taxmama.com.
Nice. Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We are on with Evie Brooks, and we're talking about becoming a digital nomad. What is that like? Why are more Americans going abroad and seeking out that kind of lifestyle? I thought it was a very interesting topic. And if you missed the first segment, and you missed the tax benefits. That alone has me booking a trip. I'm telling my family I'm out of here. I'm moving to Panama. I'm out of here. No, I'm just kidding. But so if you wanted to get involved in that, do you need a certain skill set in order to decide that you want to work abroad or become a digital nomad? Like what kind of skills would you advise that somebody has?
Well, as far as being able to become a digital nomad or work abroad, it basically is going to be just the business that you already do, you know how to do, and that you can do from anywhere, from the internet and from your cell phone. But that's basically just understanding the process of what you have to do and what the guidelines are, what the rules are with the country, how long you can stay in the country, how long you can drive there without actually becoming a resident or getting your residency. And if you're not going to do that, then how long you have to leave the country for before you can come back. So there's just some basic steps to be able to become a digital nomad.
And that makes sense because other countries are not like ours where, if you overstay your visa, it's no big deal. Like other countries are like, no, get out. Like they don't play,
Exactly.
They don't play around. Like
Yeah.
if you're due to be, out of Germany at, 12 o'clock on a certain date at 12:01, they're like, hello, time to go, time to get out. Yeah, they don't play around like that.
So true. Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I would think that you also, and this is, I guess, for anybody who's working abroad or not working in an office, that you would need to be organized and disciplined and that kind of thing.
You know what, Melanie? This goes back to just basic ability to be self-accountable and to, this is a whole thing, just a topic that I've talked to people about as far as becoming investors. And a lot of people become a digital nomad just to become a real estate investor. But you've got to have that discipline to be able to work as though you're punching a clock for someone else. And typically you will find, as you well know, that most people that are self-employed, that work for themselves, have a greater discipline than those that just work in corporate America, if you will.
100%. It's really funny, and I've talked about this before on my show, how people, in my opinion, people who have never had their own business or done anything in a consulting, entrepreneurial type way, when an entrepreneur is making good money and are doing very well, the shade that gets thrown on them, I'm like, yeah, they also work 24/7. They don't go in at 9 and leave at 5 and then not think about their job on, over the weekend. Like that's not, their lives are, they work all the time.
Their work is their play is the way I look at it. My work is my play. I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's exciting to me. Whenever I can do that for someone else and to help implement that within someone else, that is a joy for me. But I love what I do so much that if I'm not focused on actually taking time off, then I'm working. And it could be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. If I'm not sleeping, I'm working.
Right. That's exactly right. And I feel like if you're going to be a lazy digital nomad, if that's possible, then you probably were a lazy office worker to begin with. Like that's probably just your style.
Exactly. So true.
No, that is just how it is. So, do job boards, if you wanted to just search for only countries where you could just work, maybe you don't want to invest, you just want to work abroad, are there places that offer those kinds of jobs? Like do you see that on like Indeed or something like that?
Well, not on Indeed or places like that, because these are international positions, and so you're going to have to go into the country and see what they offer there. But I can tell you that just going to get a job in Panama, you're not going to make what you, number one, could make working for yourself, or number two, would make in a similar type of job in the United States, because the wages are so much less in Panama. So that's not something that I really recommend for people. Now, it maybe on some other countries, in some of the other countries, you would have that opportunity. Let's say that you're an architect or you're a doctor or whatever. But see, in Panama, there are protected categories of employment that you can't even do. For example, you can't be a doctor, you can't be an attorney, you can't be a CPA, you can't be an engineer, you can't be a real estate agent in Panama.
Really?
They preserve that for Panamanians. And see, I'm not a real estate agent. I've never been a real estate agent. I'm a real estate investor, educator, and I teach other people about investing internationally. So it's completely the opposite of what most people would think. So a lot of countries do have those guidelines and those rules that you can't be in a specific category and work in our country. So, like, we've had a lot of doctors that have come to Panama, and they can't work in Panama. So they would work with an existing medical provider, but they can't practice as a doctor.
Wow. So they could do something in the medical field, but they couldn't be an actual doctor.
Right. They have to be under someone else's license. Correct.
Whoa. I'm trying to decide how I feel about that.
Well, the country does it to protect their own, which I understand. But I will tell you this, that the country is growing so fast that I do not see them being able to maintain that for a long period of time.
Sure. That I can see both sides of that. You know, America, we're like, everybody can come here, do whatever you want while you're here, and competition. But we're a much bigger country too. Our economy's a lot bigger. I think we can absorb that, right? So
that's correct.
But so I could see wanting to do that in different countries depending on what the landscape is.
Right.
That would make sense. But just think, immediately Americans, you know how our attitude is, what, you do it differently than us, it must not be better. Can't possibly be better.
True.
If you're doing it differently than how we do it. When I was doing some research for the show, I was like, why wouldn't anybody want to do that? Like, I like to travel, but I also like being home. After about a week, I want to go home. So I was like, why would people do that? So I was looking it up, and one of the things that I found that articles talked about was that you get to meet different people, right, than where you actually live, which that's good, I guess. I think now when I travel, I'm actually trying to not meet anyone new ever. Like, my whole goal is to kind of avoid people.
a lot of the people that's looking to do this, though, they're looking for a lifestyle change. It may be because of political unrest. It may be because of the inflation. It may be because of the taxes. It may be just because they want to be in a tropical lifestyle, or they want to have a different retirement or second career. I mean, there's so many reasons. A lot of our investors are Plan B clientele. They want to have a Plan B, just like in COVID. If something goes wrong in their home country, they have a place to go that they may be able to escape to. So majority of my clients prior to COVID were expats and Plan B people. And then after COVID, the Plan B even became more prominent, and then the digital nomads.
Wow. I love it. Now, there's other countries besides Panama. I did find an article that listed some other countries. There are some countries that have special digital nomad licenses. You probably knew that, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Germany has it, Costa Rica. I wonder what the infatuation with Costa Rica was. I know a lot of people who travel there. Dubai. I've never been to Dubai, but I hear it's fantastic. Croatia, Bermuda. I see some good spots on the list. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. There's some great spots on the list where they have. Now, I would imagine, much like Panama has some laws that restrict certain areas where you can work, or certain kinds of jobs that you can have, that there are reasons why these countries have special digital nomad visas.
Well, it's a source of revenue for them. And that's one thing about Panama that I love, is that you don't have to have any kind of special license to be able to come in there and do it. You can pack your bags and be there tomorrow. Because all you need is just your passport if you're coming from a friendly nation, which, of course, the United States, Canada are, where a lot of these other countries create these digital nomad license or visas because it's a source of revenue for the country.
You mean that governments create extra government as a money grab to people who want to visit when they recognize an open market? That is stunning. I can't believe that a government would do such a thing. and of course, I meant that exactly as sarcastically as it sounded. Well, because, we're infamous. It goes to what we were talking about earlier about the tax situation. Oh, my gosh, we can tax that again. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
So
as many times as they can possibly tax.
Oh, my goodness. And when you think about it, it makes you sick. It really does. You're like, wait, you taxed it when I made the money. You taxed it when I went and bought an item. You taxed it when I bought the house. I put it in the bank, and then you taxed what I made on that. Like, what?
Exactly.
Crazy. Is absolutely insanely nuts. So as far as I know, you don't give out investing advice, but as a short-term, long-term, mid-term kind of investment, is this an area that people are looking to for an investment strategy?
Absolutely. That's what I do, is I teach short-term, mid-term, long-term legacy investments. We have, get in, get out quick, 2 to 3 year type programs with return on investments. And I like cash on cash, but I'm not going to talk about cash on cash. I'm just going to talk about just based on the actual investment cost of, anywhere from 7 to 15%. And then when we get into real cash on cash, because for me, investment is about how much am I making on the dollars I take out of my own bank account to invest in a property. So if I'm able to get you into a property for just 10 or 15 or 20 or 30% down, that's all you got tied up in that, even though it's a $400,000 property and you've only got, let's say, $100,000 into it. Your return is basically based on exactly how much have you invested. So that's what we call a cash-on-cash return. And that's truly what your return on investment is, because it's not based on the entire purchase price of the property, because you're not paying the entire purchase price of that property. So we do have all kinds of investment opportunities, and it's very simple. All I would recommend somebody is, if you're doing this internationally, is to work with someone that can help keep you from having all the skint knees and scraped elbows that I've had and that most people will have. If you go into a new country and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get an education one way or the other. Do you want the right kind of education, or do you want the very expensive kind of education? And that's totally a decision that you need to make.
That's exactly right. I think in general, people are kind of short-sighted when it comes to having a professional for certain things, or someone like you who has already been there and done it. People are like, oh, I don't want to pay that person for that. But how much are you going to pay when you make a mistake?
Exactly. And you're going to pay a lot, especially when you go international, because people will pay. I've seen people pay $10,000 to $20,000 more just to get their residencies and or their citizenships than they should have. Although I don't charge people for what we do as far as a fee. My clients stay with me deal after deal and year after year. I have clients that are in 15, 20, 25 deals right now.
Wow.
And because they know that they can trust me and that I'm going to lead them down the path. But another thing to consider is people that have the insight and the inroads, if you will, are going to be able to bring deals to you that you're not going to find otherwise. They're not on the internet. You can't walk into the developer's office and find them. We get special opportunities, pre-construction, post-construction, pocket listings, things that you're not going to find anywhere else, because of the amount of business that we bring to the developers that we work with. And we're very selective about who we will work with because of the amount of business that we have brought to them through the years. We have the ability to have that discretion.
And that is very nice, because you do want to really pick and choose who you're going to deal with. And by the way, gang, you should check out EvieBrooksPanama.com. Where you can sign up, if I'm not mistaken, and you will correct me. You can sign up to figure out how to get in on this action. And like we were saying earlier, you know, why try to learn yourself? Yes, you can learn stuff on the internet. Yes, you can learn stuff on YouTube. But then you have to kind of absorb that information yourself. I like what your website says about sweat equity is a real thing.
Absolutely it is. You know that as well as anyone.
Exactly. It says learn 3 simple steps to build a real estate portfolio without stress, fear, or sweat equity. And the sweat equity is the thing. Life is short. Get yourself a professional.
Absolutely.
That's what I say. And I loved your website. It's beautiful and very, very well run and quick. I like all those things about whenever I go to a guest website, I will promote it if I like it. If I think it stunk, I don't mention it. So
well, thank you.
Always go.
You know what? I don't try to teach on my website. I just try to give enough information so people know how to reach out, because teaching, I mean, you can sit and read as many books as you want, and one of them that I'm going to recommend is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's a great introduction to investing in real estate, but there is no book, I don't care how many books you read, that's going to give you that real life experience. And since you don't have that because you've not done this before, then you want to work with somebody that does have that experience that can help you avoid the pitfalls.
That's exactly right, and knows what to look for. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
You might read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and start making moves, but, you know, there's that one thing that you forgot that it said, or there's one, or, you know, some situation that came up that was different. And that's why I truly believe in the importance of mentorships and reaching out to people who are more experienced than you are in different areas. Are there other ways that people can reach out to you if they want to find out more?
Well, if you go to the website, EvieBrooksPanama.com, and you fill in the information there, I will call you back. I will give you a call back, and we'll actually have a one-on-one conversation. It typically is about a 15 to 20-minute conversation just to find out what you're interested in, if this is right for you, whether it's a digital nomad, an expat, becoming a resident, or getting a citizenship, if you're just looking to invest internationally, if you're looking for a plan B, whatever it is, I'll know by the end of that call if it's right for you, if it's not, and what direction you want to go. But what we do is we sit down with you and we start looking at your total plan of action, and we look out 5 years. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Now we'll back into that and we'll say, okay, to accomplish that over the next 5 years, let's start here. This is what we need to do, and this is what we need to accomplish, and let's put you on a path to helping you accomplish those goals in that period of time.
Nice. Very good. Thank you so much, Evie Brooks, for coming on Money Talk with Melanie. You were fantastic. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I am so glad that I was able to be a part.
Indeed. Check out the podcast when it comes out. I'll be sure to tag you, and then you can go ahead and share it with others. Great information you provided here.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the Tax Mama. Yes, the Tax Mama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. Seize the opportunity to excel with the Tax Mama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The Tax Mama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
This is important because it's your money.
Your money.
Money Talk with Melanie
Money Talk with Melanie.
on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I want to thank my guests tonight, Nina Szewczak and Evie Brooks. They did a fantastic job on both topics. I want to thank Mark for running the boards tonight, did a stellar job. Thank you, Eva Rosenberg, for being a sponsor of Money Talk with Melanie. And thank you for listening. If you listen to Money Talk with Melanie live, or if you were listening to it as a podcast, I deeply, deeply appreciate your listening. Be sure to turn in to Money Talk with Melanie next week, where we will have guest Bill Westrom, who is going to talk to us about how to be leaner and meaner budgeting in tough times. Remember, all of this is important because after all, it's your money.